The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Let me just say, after View distorting the belt, they're proclaiming the real world champion. I'm going to tell you all, with a tear in my eye, this is the greatest moment in my life. When you walk around this world and you tell everybody you're number one, the only way you get to stay number one is to be number one.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. And, of course, you can find us live on Twitter at Real Captain Lou on our Twitter page. And we can find us on the Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page, my own Facebook page, Louis Gamlin. Great to be with you on this Wednesday, September the 13th, 2023. It's a great day if you're a Detroit Lions fan. We are 1-0. Can you believe it? Who would have thought the Lions would have went into Kansas City and took care of the Kansas City Chiefs last week, 21-20. All of our teams here in the mid-Michigan area are undefeated in the state of Michigan, the big colleges anyways. Michigan State 2-0, Michigan 2-0, and, of course, our Detroit Lions 1-0 as they look to kind of keep that one going. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Real Captain Lou. Follow me on Facebook at Louis Gamlin or on the Captain Lou Extravaganza Facebook page. And again, subscribe to our network, the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. We've got all of our shows that we bring you here on the Belly Up Network of Sport, the Belly Up Network, including the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Also, we'll be starting up the ACHA Power Play here at the end of September in about 3 weeks. We'll get that going every week, or every other week at least, as the American Collegiate Hockey Association season is underway. The road to Boston is there as well. We're going to have a very special guest joining us in a few moments, Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press. Lansing State Journal is going to stop on by, of course. If you are a sports fan, as I know you all are, and of course, unless you've been living under a rock the last few days here in the Michigan area and throughout the country, we all know what's going on in East Lansing right now at Michigan State. Kind of a shocker waking up Sunday morning and finding out that Mel Tucker was suspected of sexual harassment. He's been suspended without pay pending the investigation. The hearing, the Title IX hearing, is about 3 weeks away from now, and it doesn't look good for Mel Tucker. It looks like more than likely, unless a miracle happens, he will be more or less he has coached his last game at Michigan State. So Chris will come on. We'll talk about that. We'll also preview the big game coming up, the game of the weekend here in this state anyways, as far as the college scheme of things goes. The Washington Huskies, they're ranked 8th in the country. They're coming in to invade Spartans Stadium. This is going to be a huge game. 5 o'clock kick. It's on Peacock. Just a whole lot of things going on surrounding that on the field as well. Harlan Barnett's going to be the acting head coach. Mark D'Antonio is back. He's going to be an associate head coach, kind of help get the transition going, at least now. Just a whirlwind of things going on in East Lansing. It never ceases to amaze me what goes on at Michigan State University. So, again, Chris Solari scheduled to join us. Hopefully we can get a little insight. He's covered Michigan State athletics for a lot of years for the Free Press and the State Journal. He's right in the middle of it all, and hopefully we'll be able to get him to join us here in a few moments. We'll dissect that and the Washington game and what's going on in Michigan State athletics. It really is it's a tough situation right now if you're a Spartan fan, and it's no fun. It really isn't. Yeah, I mean, we like to tease each other. Everybody knows I'm a Michigan fan. You can see behind me the majority of my stuff is Michigan stuff. You know, we like to tease off the field or on the field antics, you know, things that go on the field, maybe a fumble here, you know, the punt block, whatever, back 8 years ago. That stuff we can live with. This stuff is no fun. And I honestly feel badly for the Michigan State players, the alum, the students, the fans, the donors. I mean, this is the last thing that we need at Michigan State. We all know what happened with Larry Nassar. It just seems like leadership can't get out of their own way there at Michigan State. Now we've got a head coach or a former head coach that, again, thought maybe he was impervious to anything. And, again, I'm in utter amazement at what Mel Tucker did. And, Brenda Tracy may not be totally without fault in all of this, but I got to tell you, it just reeks. It just reeks. And it's too bad because this is a slap in the face to Michigan State. It's going to set them back. Leadership's got to come through on this. I don't know what's going to happen. It appears to me that they, after reading everything and dissecting it over the last 72 hours or so, we all know what happened. The timeline, it's funny is my wife and I were staying with some friends out of town Sunday morning. I get up about 8:00, look at my phone, and in one of my group chats with my family and whatnot, they're talking about this, and you didn't want to believe it. It was like something out of a movie. And when you read about this, and you think there's no way. And one of the questions that pops into my head is, Mel Tucker knew about this investigation, and he knew what was going on. He played his cards close to the vest. Now, he's come out with his statement saying that he is not to blame in any of this. This has nothing to do with Title IX. It was consensual, all of that. And I don't buy that for a minute. And he's in a world of hurt. And I just cannot see one scenario where Mel Tucker is going to be coaching again at Michigan State University. He may never coach again in college football. I honestly think his next step will probably be the pro game. His bridge is burned. And now the next question is going to be, will he be fired? Will there be a settlement before October 5th? I don't know legally if Michigan State can do that. There's so many things, so many questions that are out there still with this, with all this that's going on. And hopefully Michigan State can handle it the right way. Their track record hasn't been the greatest in all of this. And again, I don't want to sound like I'm piling on, but you read through all this and you just look at it and you think, what, why, how did this all come about? And, the investigation started back in November or in December. The president, the board supposedly didn't know anything about this. Alan Haller, the athletic director, didn't know anything about this. They came up with their findings in July. They scheduled this meeting in October in the bye week. It's not a good look for Michigan State. They say they're doing everything by the book. They might have, but I got to tell you, it's just, Mel Tucker saying that, it's a witch hunt, that somebody's got it out to get him. Somebody wanted to get him out of that contract. Somebody leaked it on the board. I mean, there's so many accusations out there. And it's fodder for national news, which is a shame for the Michigan State family. It really is. And I go back to looking at this and thinking to myself, what are the students, the alumni, the fans? I mean, the people that pay tens of thousands of dollars for season tickets, the tailgating, the everyday experience of going to a ball game. How much of this is going to taint that for now? I've got family that spends thousands of dollars. They live for the tailgating experience. It's a lot of fun. It really is. And my heart aches for them. And, they don't deserve this. What about, what is Tom Izzo thinking about this? All the money that he's poured into the football program, the Tom Izzo building, Matt Ishbia, all the money that he poured into this, into Michigan State. It's just, it goes on and on and on. And I don't see how Mel Tucker survives it. There's no way. So we wait at least until October 5th and October 6th. That's when the hearing is. Off week for Michigan State. Now then we'll find out, is he going to be terminated? Is there going to be a buyout? Is there going to be an agreement? If you're Michigan State, do you meet with their attorneys? Do you try to get a settlement, $20 million, send them down the road? Is Brenda Tracy going to get a settlement from Michigan State? How do you go and appease the fans and the alum and the donors? It just so many questions at Michigan State. It really is a shame, and it really is too bad. And I just it is too bad. Well, you know what? I'm going to agree with Brad Van Sickler here. Let's talk about something positive. How about those Detroit Lions, huh? That's right. 1-0 on the campaign, 21-20 win over Kansas City last Thursday night. Now next up is Seattle. First thing I want to say about about the Detroit Lions and about that win on Thursday night is there is no asterisk in that victory. No asterisk at all. And it's troubling to me. I think about it, and the first thing I heard of, or it came to mind, was last year at the end of the year when the Lions beat Green Bay in Lambeau to knock them out of the playoffs. And I hear Al Michaels say, this is nothing about the Lions tonight. Tonight is now all about Aaron Rodgers leaving Green Bay. And then you hear Mike Tirico call this an asterisk victory for the Lions against Kansas City. Oh, hell no. Hell no. That's not the case. The Lions won fair and square. These are professional teams. It's just like I do feel bad for Aaron Rodgers to a certain extent, but, he's out for the year. Next man up. Kansas City's the defending Super Bowl champions. They're the cream of the crop. They're the top. They're the kings, supposedly. Injuries are part of the game. No one ever feels sorry when the Lions lose somebody. If Matthew Stafford went down or if Jared Goff goes down, nobody's going to feel sorry for the Lions. And so, you know what? That was a huge win. That was a road win. I got to be honest with you. That was one I was not counting on if I'm a Lions fan. I was hoping they'd win. In my 11 victory season that I had predicted possibly for the Lions to get this year, I didn't count that as a win. So that's kind of one for house money, if you will. Now the big thing is, can the Lions keep it going on Sunday afternoon against Seattle? That's going to be the question everybody's going to ask. How can they stand prosperity? They go into Kansas City. They punch them in the mouth. Got to love Brian Branch. Thought he played great. Sam Laporta looked good. We talked about this last week. How would the Lions rookies play in this Thursday night game under the bright lights of Kansas City, raising the banner, this, that, and the other? How would they react to that? Well, we're going to find out. They came out and they won. It was great. Now the Lions, they go on to Seattle. They come home to Seattle, rather, and take on a Seahawks team that got punched in the mouth by the Rams. You talk about Matthew Stafford. He played great for the Rams against the Seahawks. They had more of a ground and pound type of attack. I'm not too worried about the Lions' defense right now. I think that I read where Dan Campbell said that they're going to start expanding the role for Jahmyr Gibbs. I hope that he can get, my prediction for Gibbs, or for the Lions to win, was that Gibbs was going to have to touch the ball 25 times in week one through the air, or, 17 to 18 carries, 7 receptions, or at least 7 targets. To me, I think that's what he needs to keep it going for the Lions. I love David Montgomery. I think it's a good pickup. It's good to have a 1-2 tandem like that. And I think it's going to be huge out of the backfield. But yeah, Gibbs has got to get involved in that offense a little more. And I think he's gonna. I really do. I think, again, the Lions got out of Kansas City, easing Gibbs into the offense. And they got away with that. But they can't do that for much longer. And, and obviously, Detroit, in my opinion, didn't play the greatest game against Kansas City. They left some stuff out there. And again, that's when you can be rusty and lose and win a game. That's a sign of good teams. Good teams learn how to win games that they didn't play their best. And again, Mike Tirico to me showed a weakness, a big weakness in his, that was not an asterisk win. I get so tired of the big teams, if you will, the media darlings, the New York Jets, the Dallas Cowboys, USC Trojans, Kansas City now, any New York team, any, Los Angeles Dodger team, whatever. I get tired of them getting a free ride. And whenever somebody beats them, there's always an excuse. Well, you know what? It's like I posted on my Facebook page. And Mike Tirico, I'm going to tell you, ifs and buts. If your grandmother had balls, she'd be your grandfather. That was a statement win for the Lions, and they definitely deserved it. So, what can I say about that? The Lions go on to win 21-20. We'll touch on a little bit more. Just want to remind everybody that tonight's show is brought to you, as always, by Javi Coffee. Check them out, javicoffee.com. And again, it's very easy to use. All you can do, take 2 teaspoons, 1 or 2 teaspoons, depending how strong you want it. You can drink it hot or cold. And it's easier to use than instant coffee, a lot neater than the grounds or whatever, the coffee grounds. You can get it in regular. You can get it in decaf, salted caramel, French vanilla, you name it. Go to javicoffee.com and get your package that you want. And when you're at checkout, make sure that you use the promo code Captain Lou, and you'll get 15% off of your purchase. That is javicoffee.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk more about what's going on here in the world of sports in the Michigan area. Michigan with a big win. We'll talk more about Michigan State's victory on the field and maybe an emerging running back or two. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and it's live here on Belly Up Sports and the Captain Lou Sports Network. Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here. You got your tickets for Spartan Stadium yet for Michigan State playing Central, maybe down the road against Michigan? Speaking of Michigan at the Big House, you got your tickets there for Ohio State or whoever they might play? Well, I've got just the answer if you don't. That's SeatGeek. They've got great seats available at great prices. You say you might want to go to Penn State later on this year for a ball game? Michigan's going there in November. I highly recommend checking out SeatGeek. They've got great seats, great prices, the best way to go to get your tickets. So if you want to go to Spartan Stadium or if you want to go to the Big House this fall, make sure you check out SeatGeek. And while you're there, use the promo code Captain Lou. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek. Use the promo code Captain Lou for $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, the best place to go to get your tickets for this fall. All right, everybody, welcome back here to the Captain Lou Extravaganza live here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. And, of course, we are powered up by Belly Up Sports, and you can catch us on Twitter at The Real Captain Lou and on my Facebook page, which is the Captain Lou Extravaganza. While we got a few minutes, I want to bring in our scheduled guest here tonight. And, again, really appreciate his time, that, of course, being Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press and the Lansing State Journal. Chris, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. It's been a busy couple days, as you can imagine, but certainly kind of get used to it sometimes around covering Michigan State, that nothing is ever easy or unexpected. Let's put it that way.
Right on. I know I've seen a couple of your articles, and I listened to you earlier today on the radio, and it is a shame. It's funny is we corresponded last week, and our initial goal was to talk about Washington, which we will. And it's funny is I was going to ask you a question. I always try to ask my guests something they may not have been asked, but I'm still going to ask you this. You've covered Michigan State enough. You go to the games at the Breslin, at Spartan Stadium, Munn, whatever. With the new age of social media, how many plays have you missed when you're on Twitter trying to tweet a timeout or a play?
Oh, you miss them here and there. But you know what? The only thing that's different is the mechanism, because a lot of times you sometimes would miss things either because you're writing what you just saw or you were taking notes on what you just saw pre-social media era. So it's just a different mechanism, and something that Larry Lage told me a long time ago, with using Twitter when it first debuted. You kind of use that as your notebook, and you can go back to your own feed and see, okay, well, what was happening when? There's pluses and minuses to it. But I mean, the notes that I keep and I have kept for many, many years, a lot of times, especially what's changed that actually is basketball is always frantic. So you could take quick notes and quick little squiggles so you know what happened. Football usually had a rhythm to it, and you'd have play, huddle, play. The no huddle era of football and the spread offense up tempo, that's made that a lot more difficult. So sometimes you could be writing down what just happened in the last play or tweeting it, and bam, they're up at the line ready to go again. You don't have the breathing room anymore.
Well, I'm glad you answered that, because I often wondered about that. I've been to games and I've seen all of you guys down at Press Row doing that, and it was almost kind of comical to watch. Let's get to the elephant in the room real quick before we talk about the Washington game. It's obviously a gut punch for Michigan State. As I said at the top, I feel bad for the alum. I feel bad for the players, the students, the donors, and I feel bad for you guys, Chris, because deep down, you don't want to talk about this. I mean, it's almost like an embarrassment, and it's got to be hard to write about and to talk about all the time with things like this, and it seems all too often.
Yeah, it's part of the job. I think that's something to keep in mind. I mean, you don't want to see people's lives get dragged through the mud, but sometimes their actions and presenting them, people will look at it and say, "Oh, you're dragging them through the mud," when you're really giving me the background of what's reported to have happened, all those things. And sometimes the details aren't flattering. Sometimes they're disturbing, and sometimes they're just outright embarrassing. So that kind of comes par with the course when you're trying to present what actually is happening and what actually has happened in any situation. Not just simply this Mel Tucker thing. I mean, there's you can think back to some of the things that have happened at Michigan State. Really, well, pick a number, pick a year, right? We can go back to 2016 when I started, and the first week that I started, and moved over from Lansing to Detroit was the week that USA Gymnastics and first initial glimpses into the Larry Nassar story came out. So think about all the things that have happened since then. And reporting it sometimes I think gets conflated with the action or the actions and activities that happen that you are reporting on. And sometimes people don't want to hear that. Some of the details people don't want to hear. You gotta sometimes tread lightly, but sometimes the situation warrants explaining all of the things, and that can be ugly. And we don't want to do that. I mean, especially as sports writers, people call it the toy department because we cover games because of all these things, but there are real life things that happen, and that's kind of the fine line that most of us got into it for the games, for what we enjoy, and some people got into it for the personalities, right? Well, if you got into it for the personalities, that's part of this, presenting the whole picture and not the mythology that comes with sports.
Mel Tucker's hearing, Chris, is October 5th and 6th in East Lansing, the Title IX hearing. Legally or even I don't know. Is there any chance that this gets settled before that?
Oh, I'm sure there's a chance that it could get settled. That's I think, part of the situation right now where, I know one national reporter put out there on Sunday that he was fired.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case. But quite honestly, it was a very fluid moment with the university. I've got it confirmed from a couple different people that it went from being suspended with pay to without pay. As some of these things are hammered out internally at MSU, there are people, because of the optics, because of the past, I think some people in power, from what I gather, stepped in and said, we cannot do that with pay. We have to do it without pay. And we have the legal authority to do that. So things at that point were pretty fluid. So, but the settlement situation, I think, is going to be interesting because, one, I think a lot of people have drawn this line in the sand that October 5th and 6th hearing is going to determine what they do with Michigan State. But the reality is Michigan State can then open up an HR investigation into things and different things to, I don't want to say prolong it, but do their due diligence, because if they are going to try and get out from under the remainder of that 10-year contract, $95 million, they have to follow their own procedures and protocols. And if that's warranted, where they need to do a HR investigation to see if this was an isolated incident, if there was something beyond this, that could take it even longer. And as seemingly crass as it might seem, it's college athletics. So there is a reality component within the industry that if you fire a coach, then athletes have a 30-day window immediately after you fire them to transfer. The portal isn't open until the end of November, until the end of the regular season, unless you fire a coach in season. Then athletes can go in the portal. So that's something that has to be kept in mind, from a university standpoint, from an athletic department standpoint, in how they proceed with what comes next for Mel Tucker. So, but that also, if they were to do that and have to open up a second or a separate investigation, that gives them more of an opportunity and a longer opportunity to weigh the pros and cons of, is it more beneficial to try and settle and get a non-disclosure agreement and get Mel Tucker to resign, or should we fire him and recoup and then fight in court over the contract? Because Mel Tucker's statement made it pretty clear that he will be fighting for the remainder of his contract, which was fully guaranteed. And spell fully however you want, with the U or with double O's. It really, that's the reality of it. They gave him this contract. Now, but again, I think that the negotiations, let me put it this way. The one thing I don't think is going to happen is Mel Tucker coaching another game at Michigan State. Okay. How it happens, I don't know.
I would be shocked, Chris, if he's on the sidelines ever again in East Lansing, unless he's coaching another team. And I got to be honest with you, I don't know if he's going to be coaching another college team. I think, personally, just guessing, I think his next step will be coaching a professional team. I think he's got enough contacts in the NFL game. I think that's where he'll end up.
Well, he spent 10 years in the NFL. Yeah. And, I think that is a legitimate and plausible theory. None of us really know, because Mel Tucker's obviously gone radio silent, other than his message, his statement through his attorney, understandably so, based upon the circumstances and the details. But I the way his statement read, in terms of calling the university the OIE investigation, which essentially is a Title IX investigation, by preemptively calling it a sham, he does not. I'm curious to see if he even shows up for it, because if that's the case, the only reason he has to show up for it, if he does want to coach in college again, he may not want to. He may say, forget about it. I don't ever want to coach in college sports again, and go to the NFL and get back there. And at the same point, who knows what that'll be, and who knows? I know the NFL hires whoever for whatever,
right?
But there's also an acute awareness for many of these type of sexual assault and sexual harassment allegations, especially if someone has admitted to what they did, that an NFL team may not want to take on that kind of embarrassment, even at a lower level position.
Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press, Lansing State Journal, joining us here, Michigan State University beat reporter here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We really appreciate it. Chris, Harlan Barnett takes over now. He's the quote-unquote acting or interim head coach. Mark D'Antonio is associate head coach. I think that's a good thing for him to come on board. Boy, oh boy, you got Washington coming in on Saturday. Michael Penix Jr., the air attack that he brings. There's two ways this could go, obviously. The emotion, the adrenaline, Saturday with the new coaching staff, the players rallying around Harlan. or, obviously it could be a disaster. It's really going to be must-see TV if you have Peacock, or, a must-see event in at the stadium. Must-stream TV. There you go.
Yeah, I think that they could have all those things that you said in terms of rallying the troops and energizing things, and still just not have enough talent to stop what Washington has. I mean, we saw out there last year, Peyton Thorne basically had to try and pass them back into it, and by the end, everybody knew that's what they were doing, because Michigan State could not run the ball.
Yeah.
Washington's defense has struggled a little bit early in the season to stop the run. So I think that's something that bodes well. But then if you look at it the other side, we don't know the health and availability of Jalen Berger and Jaron Mangum, which would leave Nate Carter as the only guy back there. And Nate Carter is in at the Michigan game last year, got knocked out with a separated shoulder. So you've got an injury history, and looks great. Looks fantastic from what we saw, and as advertised in the first two games, but that's against Central Michigan and Richmond.
Yeah.
You're still talking about when you get into the Power 5 play, when you've got teams with depth and size, the hitting gets harder. The tackles get more disruptive, and you probably don't want to hit that guy with a history of separated shoulders carrying the ball 45 times a game. I mean, you could bring George Perlis back. That's not Lorenzo White coming through the door.
Right.
So how they operate with that, whether Mangum comes back, because he got Jaron Mangum, the kid from Cass Tech, who started under Tucker at Colorado and then transferred to South Florida and ended up at MSU this year. He got hurt in pregame and had to be helped off the field with whatever it was, lower body. And that's their big body back that they were hoping to have. And then Jalen Berger left the game with a lower leg injury, and didn't come back after halftime. So those look pretty significant.
Yeah.
And then you've got Carter, who's behind him. I mean, you've got Davion Prim, who fumbled against Richmond. You've got Jordan Simmons, the veteran, who fumbled that was returned for a touchdown against Richmond. Ball security is job security, as a coach and a suspended coach just said. So there should be concern about that. Even with Washington's defense being shaky against the run, and then on the other side, I mean, they have not been able to stop Michael Penix. I think he's thrown in 3 games prior against Michigan State.
Oops, looks like we got cut off here. Let's see if we can get him back. Oh, there he is. You were just about to get a hold of Mark D'Antonio to see if he had any answers yet for Penix, right?
I really thought that was Harlan Barnett clocking in to tell me, hey, we got 5 transfers that just showed up in the running back room that had instant eligibility. No, but I mean, Penix, I think in 3 games, I think I counted he's thrown for over 1,100 yards against Michigan State.
Yikes!
Since 2019, when Mark D'Antonio was still the head coach. So, he's been a problem for them, and it'll be interesting to see what lessons they have learned, because obviously the last 2 years, 2 of the last 3 years, because Penix didn't play in 2021 at Indiana. But 2 of the last 3 years, Barnett's secondary has been absolutely gashed by Penix.
Yeah.
So we'll see what kind of lessons that he's learned, what him and Mark D'Antonio can maybe put together to try and slow that passing attack down, because, I mean, Washington's legit. And Kalen DeBoer is, I mean, you talk about a fast rising coach who has been around for actually a lot longer than people think. He just because he was coaching at the NAIA level and winning national titles there, it was off the radar. But as someone who's 20 years, I've known him at least, a little more than 20 years. He's always been a fantastic football coach and knows how to identify talent and knows how to script and scheme things. So it's going to be a fascinating matchup between whatever Harlan Barnett and Scotty Hazelton and Mark D'Antonio come up with on the fly to try and slow down Penix. That's to me still going to be the thing to watch in this game, even though there's going to be so many side things like D'Antonio's return, Harlan's first game as head coach. The 2013 Rose Bowl reunion is this weekend. So D'Antonio was going to be in town anyways. So there's a lot to kind of process, I think, for this, for what's going to happen on Saturday. That I don't know. I really don't know what to expect, but I still think that Washington has way too much firepower attacking a young, more talented than before, but still very young and questionable secondary that Michigan State has.
Well, I think as I process into this next question, I think 16 points is still quite a bit. And I do what's called the Captain Lou teaser locks. I'm adding some to that later on in the show, and I'm rolling with the Spartans plus 22. This Saturday, this is also kind of thrown to the side, Chris, is the first game where there's going to be liquor sales at Michigan State. And,
there was that too.
And I was going to ask you this,
it's time to better, right?
Yeah, isn't that something, eh? I don't know if I'm surprised that they're doing it. I think it's the wave of the future, obviously, but it's obviously, I'm interested to see how that's going to all play out at Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for many years they were hesitant to have night games,
right?
And now you talk about the massive change around college football. There's the alcohol factors, there's the gambling, college sports has markedly changed in the last 5 years. And this is really, I think, from what I gather, it's not going to be a tremendous stream of revenue. It's going to be more about the fans. It'll be interesting to see if it slows people's drinking during tailgates. I doubt it, because I'm sure there's going to be a premium on liquor sales and beer sales inside the stadium.
I'm sure.
Which is just like everywhere else. And I don't think, college sports is as much about the tailgating it is about the game sometimes, for the fans that go, because it's the atmosphere. It's what it is. It's
right.
It's a different ball game than the pro game. So I don't know. I mean, they may run out if things go bad at the start. They may be run out by halftime if Michigan State can't put some points up and do a little more on the offensive side than they have the outset of the first two games.
So last question for you, and I'll let you go, Chris. I really appreciate your time here tonight. I know you've been swamped. It's been a crazy week for you. I can only imagine. Getting back to Harlan Barnett, he sounds like a good guy. It sounds like he's a player's coach, this and that. Is there worry about how this could turn into possibly a Bobby Williams situation? I know that's early for that, but that's the first thing that everybody seems to cry or to talk about. I know that was 20 years ago or over 20 years ago in a different situation. But do you see Barnett potentially getting this full time?
Well, if he does get it full time, it's not going to be a Bobby Williams situation.
Okay.
Simply because, remember, Bobby Williams got that job really based on the players going to Cowell's house for the president after Nick Saban left, and he had a 1-game audition. Quite honestly,
right.
This is a 10-game audition, maybe 11 if or more, depending on how well Harlan Barnett does, and with Mark D'Antonio by his side. Do I think that he gets the job? I think he's going to get a shot at it.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first indication. This is a guy that a lot of people forget, because when he left for Florida State, people had identified the fact that, he was co-coordinator here. Are we really going to hire a guy without coaching experience elsewhere? Or are we going to hire a guy without full-time coordinator position? So he went to Florida State to get that, and Willie Taggart's staff fell apart, and everything went sideways there. And at the same time, things here in East Lansing weren't great in the last couple of years of Mark D'Antonio compared to what we saw when Barnett was on the sideline. So I don't know. I mean, I think that Michigan State, with their donor base, ponying up for that contract for Tucker, or a portion of it, and the university itself showing at the willingness to do that. Granted, it was under a previous administration, a previous athletic director, a previous president, which is also something to keep in mind. But they showed their willingness and the resources to be able to pay for a coach of some stature if they want to go that route the next way. But I do think that Barnett will get at minimum a 10-game trial here, and if he can show success and growth, I don't know if they would want to try and go outside to someone else they don't know after I mean, it could go one of two ways. You could be doing more exploratory work to dig into the background of some of these other candidates, like a Lance Leopold, or some of the hot names, Jason Candle at Toledo, or Jim Leonard from Wisconsin, all those names that people have thrown around the last week, when Michigan State still has a coach. But they may decide to trust their instinct with a person that they know, not a football coach they know, but someone that they know is a good person coming out of this, because there's going to, there may be some gun shy folks, and who knows, they're still in the middle of a presidential search too. So a lot of things can still change before they go and try and decide what's going to happen full time, especially when we're talking 72 hours, 96 hours since that bombshell, and then that has kind of sent things unraveling.
Boy, it sure has. And now it seems like every county's been heard of now throughout the state of Michigan and around the country. Chris, I know you've been busy. Get back to your personal life. Thanks for taking time out tonight to be with us. This has been a treat. Keep up the great work. I enjoy your work on the Free Press and the Journal. Always a pleasure. And again, thanks for coming on.
I'm glad I could do it, Lou. I know I committed to it before all hell broke loose, but I wanted to make sure that we were able to connect. So you be well and keep doing your thing. Do it well.
All right. Right on, Chris. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Right. You too. Take care.
You bet. Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press, Lansing State Journal, does fantastic work. He's been one of the many that has been on top of this since it broke right before midnight on Sunday. They're part of the group that with the USA Today. The article came out, I want to say about 12:30 on Sunday morning. And as I said at the top of the show, you woke up to the news. It's like, there's no way. I was telling my buddy, like I said, my wife and I were staying with some friends up at a cottage up in Houghton Lake area or Harrison area. And we woke up to coffee, and I said, oh my God, look at this. Mel Tucker's in trouble. He might be gone. And it's just, you just never know. And again, all hell is broken loose at Michigan State. Now they've got Washington coming in this Saturday, 5:00. Peacock, you got to be able to stream it if you want to watch it. But, who knows what's going to happen in that game. And, it's never a dull moment in East Lansing. Mel Tucker out. Harlan Barnett right now is the acting head coach, as we talked about. So we'll get into more about it real quick. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to dive into Michigan. We'll talk a little more about Michigan State. Again, the Lions, the NFC North, you name it. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza. It's live right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube, and, of course, on Twitter and Facebook. And we are part of the Belly Up Network of Sports.
It's the biggest game of the year, and your team doesn't have a coach. They don't even have a game plan. You probably aren't feeling very good about their chances. Make sure you're prepared for one of the biggest financial decisions of your life, retirement. Do you have a coach? What about a plan? Set yourself up for success by calling 877-222-8849 and having Mindy and Nolan McIntosh and their team at McIntosh & Associates create your retirement playbook. They'll help you think through taxes, income, legacy planning, and much more. When you're done, you'll have a customized retirement game plan that you can feel confident in. Start planning today with Central Michigan's retirement coaches, Mindy and Nolan McIntosh at McIntosh & Associates. Call 877-222-8849. That's 877-222-8849. Investment advisory products and services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor.
And welcome back, everybody, to the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live on our Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Because we got a lot going on there with our Captain Lou Extravaganza each week. We're going to add more and more as the football season goes on. And, of course, we've got our ACHA Power Play podcast starting back up in about 3 weeks right here on the Captain Lou Sports Network. We are powered up by Belly Up Sports, the Belly Up Network of podcasts. Check out bellyupsports.com. We've got a great array of sports writers. They cover everything in the world of sports, with football obviously center stage, both college and professional. Major League Baseball heading into the pennant run. Also basketball and hockey starting back up here in October. So we got a lot going on in the world of sports. And, of course, the best place you can get caught up on everything national, regional is bellyupsports.com. And, again, check out our complete list of podcasts that we have. We got a great lineup of shows, I got to tell you. 1420, the 1420 broadcast, Craft Brewed Sports, the Belly Up Fantasy Sports Show every Sunday morning, getting you ready. Last minute drops and ads for fantasy football, the college previews that we do each week, the Corner Booth podcast. Those are just some of them. The collegiate theater and hoops, whatever. We've got so many broadcasts, so many podcasts on our network. Invite you to check it out. That's bellyupsports.com. Again, I want to thank Chris Solari from the Free Press and the Lansing State Journal, taking time out of his busy schedule tonight. It has been such a whirlwind for him. Talking Michigan, he's our Michigan State beat reporter, their beat reporter. So kind of him to take time out tonight. Like I said, we kind of corresponded last week. We kind of nailed down to come on today just to talk about Washington and maybe talk about the Richmond game. We did get some tidbits on that. Looks like they're going to be pretty thin at running back with Carter really the main guy. We don't know the health of Berger. So they've got Washington coming in 5 o'clock. Peacock is where you're going to watch it. It's at home. The reunion for the 2013 Rose Bowl team. 8th ranked Washington. Michigan State is a 16-point underdog right now on DraftKings. But it's a lot of points. But we don't know. I mean, Washington State, 8th ranked in the country. They're loaded. Michael Penix Jr., Heisman Trophy candidate. We don't know how strong Michigan State's defense is going to be. He's torched Michigan State over the years, not only at Washington, but when he was at Indiana. We all saw him here in Big Ten country. So that's there. You talk about it's almost like a season opener again in college football. I know we had Central Michigan and they had Richmond coming in here to East Lansing the last couple of weeks, but now it's Washington. It's almost like a season opener because Richmond's an FCS school, and Central Michigan, they didn't exactly put up the biggest test either. So we're going to find out just where Michigan State stands. And again, with all the upheaval, Harlan Barnett, the head coach now, what do we see out of that? How much emotion is going to play into this? How much, with Mark D'Antonio coming back, adrenaline, emotion, rallying the troops. How long is that going to last? Because let's face it, Michigan State, the talent level is just not there unless they surprise the hell out of us on Saturday against Washington. So going to be very interesting to see how that ends up. We mentioned it. Michigan State is a 16-point favorite or underdog, at home against Washington. That's an awful lot of points. And so I don't know, man. That is an awful lot. Down the road in Ann Arbor, Michigan, let's talk about the Wolverines. We haven't really said a word about Michigan yet with everything that's going on just down the road at East Lansing. Michigan rolls to a big win this past weekend, again, over UNLV. No real surprise there. Kind of like Michigan State. Haven't been tested. Now, I know McCarthy's arm looks strong. He looks good. Obviously looks confident. Kind of hard not to with East Carolina and UNLV. Now they've got Bowling Green coming in. They're 1-1. Not exactly a daunting test coming in for Michigan. Again, and then next week, I think they've got Rutgers, which at the Big House, which isn't exactly going to instill the fear of God into anybody. But Michigan looked good. I mean, they're doing what they have to do. They jump out to the big lead. Looks like they kind of let up in the fourth quarter, whatever, get some more bodies in there. But, again, it's hard to tell. Corum and Edwards looks good. The passing game, Johnson looks good. They're getting everybody involved. The defense looks, very good. They're second in the country right now in points allowed. But again, they're playing East Carolina and UNLV. It's not exactly USC and Ohio State or Alabama and Georgia or whatever, Texas, whatever. It's not exactly the top of the line competition. And again, they've got Bowling Green. I expect more of the same. I think Michigan's a 40-point favorite coming into this game on Saturday night, 7:30 kick on the Big Ten Network. You get done watching Michigan State and Washington about 8:30 or so. You can flip it over to watch Michigan on the Big Ten Network. Again, I don't think Michigan probably won't cover. They're 0-2 against the spread. Now, granted, these spreads have been 35 and 38 points. This one is 40. I don't think Michigan's going to cover. Now, this is the last game of the 3-game self-imposed suspension of Jim Harbaugh, which isn't going to matter a whole lot against Bowling Green either. He'll be back next week against Rutgers, another home game. Really, there isn't a whole lot to talk about with Michigan. They're rolling again, and I don't see them letting up against this Bowling Green team. The only way they're going to lose this is by some catastrophe where, they just have 15 turnovers every time they touch the ball, they fumble or whatever. Or they overlook them going into the Big Ten season. It's going to be interesting for Michigan because, they're starting off very soft with their schedule. The back end is very tough. Now, you can say what you want about Michigan State. They're in obviously a state of flux, but they've got a guy on their coaching staff right now that knows what it takes to beat Michigan, and that's Mark D'Antonio. So you don't think that they're going to play on that come towards the middle of the end of October? I think they get together on the 21st or whatever that weekend. Yeah, that's going to come into play for sure against Michigan State. So the back end of their schedule is going to be daunting. So right now, if you're a Michigan fan, enjoy it. It's going to get a lot tougher coming up the middle of October on towards the end. So really not a whole lot to talk about in the Michigan game, a 40-point favorite. So, and the Big Ten, they've got the big game, I think, this weekend is going to be Penn State at Illinois. I know that's a noon kick on Fox. I don't think Illinois is going to beat them. It'll be in an entertaining game, if you will. But I think that's about where it stops right there. And then all the other games, really not a whole lot to look at in the Big Ten this week. Conference play starts in earnest next week, except for Ohio State. They go to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. We'll talk about that next week. That's going to be a huge game. That's going to be a lot of fun to see how good Notre Dame is. I'm not sold on Ohio State. They've got quarterback issues big time there, I believe. That's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But that's next week. So this week, again, all eyes here in the state of Michigan are going to be down the road from here, from Grand Ledge, about a half hour in East Lansing. It's going to be Michigan State and Washington, a huge matchup on a lot of fronts. So many things swirling. Again, we talked about it with Chris Solari from the Free Press, with what's going on with Mel Tucker and with Harlan Barnett, now the acting head coach. How do the players react to that? Do they have the horses on the field? It's just so many things. Liquor sales for the first time at MSU. It's, so many things that are, it's crazy. There's so many variables in East Lansing. You got to go back to it. So that's a lot of eyes are going to be on that game. So we'll, and ours will be too. And of course, we'll talk all about that next week here on the Extravaganza. Let's go to Motown. We talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show. Big win for the Lions, 21-20. They came to Kansas City. Kansas City, there they came, and they won. Hung on for the big win. We didn't win on our teaser lock, but that was the only one we lost last week. We were 2-1. Happily, we'll take a loss with the Lions win. 21-20. We said Kansas City plus 2.5 and over 46.5. It was 21-20, so we only got half of it right, but I'll take it. We'll take the win. Lions now look pretty good. Again, we talked about it at the top. They've got a lot of a few things to work out yet before they're done, but they're a work in progress. But good teams find ways to win when they don't play their best. And again, if I hear any more talk from Mike Tirico or anybody else with that bullshit about an asterisk victory, that was not an asterisk victory. That was what you call beating the Super Bowl champs. Everybody goes through injuries. I don't care what team you are. Nobody's going to feel, well, there's a few people that are feeling sorry for the Jets right now. I'm not. You know what? They're snake. They talk about being snake bit. I'm here to tell you there's no more snake bit franchise than the Detroit Lions. So no way do I do feel bad. You know, nobody wishes an injury on anybody. As much as I'm not a fan of Aaron Rodgers, and you know I'm not. You know, I wouldn't wish him getting an Achilles injury. I've got one. I'm still kind of rehabbing from mine. It's been 5 months, and I can still feel it. I'm back to work, but it's still there. So he's got a lot of time left to rehab on that. He'll be back next year. There's no way that he's going to be gone. But the Lions win was a legit win. They're 1-0. They're going to host Seattle, a team that they owe a payback to from last year, that 48-45 game where I don't think any team punted. They didn't stop Seattle the whole time. That's in the back of their heads. I know they're pointing to that game. I hope to see Jahmyr Gibbs get some more touches. Hope to see him get a little more PT. Laporta played great. Brian Branch, Campbell played good. I'll tell you, it's exciting. 1-0. It's just such a great feeling. The Lions don't start 1-0 very often. Let's see if they can keep it going now as they look to try to stay on top in the NFC. Quick look at the NFC last week. Of course, the Packers punked Chicago. The Bears are horrible. The Packers exploited that. Jordan Love looked pretty good. The game plan was good. A little worried about Aaron Jones. He's didn't practice today. Maybe it's just precautionary if you're a Packer fan. But as a Lion fan, I'm worried about the Packers. Again, I know it's only the first game, but the Bears look weak. And what about Minnesota? What can you say about that? They got punked at home, too, by Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield did it to the Vikings. That's a game Minnesota had to have, and we talked about it at the beginning of the year last week. Minnesota 11-0 in one possession games last year. They're 0-1 right now. So there you go. Things tend to even out. So Minnesota's 0-1, and now they've got a Herculean task as this week, besides the Lions, taking on Seattle at home. Green Bay is at Atlanta. Atlanta's an up-and-coming team. They squeaked one out last week. Chicago goes to Tampa Bay. Tampa's got a chance to be 2-0. I think they got a great chance at going to 2-0 and leading that division, the NFC South. Chicago, to me, unless things turn around, I don't see it. Their offensive line is horrible. The Packers made them look very, very vulnerable. And then tomorrow night, Minnesota is at Philadelphia. And I'm telling you what, that is they're in trouble. Philadelphia didn't play very good against New England on the road. They get their home opener. They get the Vikings. And I'm telling you what, that's going to be ugly. All right, we're going to take one more quick break. And when we come back, we'll give you our Captain Lou teaser locks of the week. We were 2-1 last week. We'll see if we can't improve on that. So don't go anywhere. You're watching the Captain Lou Extravaganza. It's live. You're on the Captain Lou Sports Network and here on the Belly Up Network of Sports. Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here. You got your tickets for Spartan Stadium yet for Michigan State playing Central, maybe down the road against Michigan? Speaking of Michigan at the Big House, you got your tickets there for Ohio State or whoever they might play? Well, I've got just the answer. If you don't, that's SeatGeek. They've got great seats available at great prices. You say you might want to go to Penn State later on this year for a ball game? Michigan's going there in November. I highly recommend checking out SeatGeek. They've got great seats, great prices, the best way to go to get your tickets. So if you want to go to Spartan Stadium or if you want to go to the Big House this fall, make sure you check out SeatGeek. And while you're there, use the promo code Captain Lou. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek. Use the promo code Captain Lou for $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek.com, the best place to go to get your tickets for this fall. Welcome back, everybody. That's right. Go to SeatGeek.com. The big game's coming up. I don't know how many are left for the Lions home opener against Seattle this Sunday, but I know there's seats left for Michigan against Bowling Green and, of course, Michigan State and Washington. Any game that you want to watch throughout the country. If there's a concert, whatever, go to SeatGeek.com. Use the promo code Captain Lou, get 20% off or $20 off your first purchase. All right, everybody, we're just about ready to wrap things up here, getting close to the end. Last week, the Captain Lou teaser locks, we were 2-1, obviously 2-1 on the year. We told you about Washington and Baltimore. We took we took 6 off of there. They both covered on those. So we won on that one. The Lions, single game teaser, if you will, -2 and, or I'm sorry, plus 1.5 for Kansas City, and over 46.5. We didn't get that one. And then, of course, we took Colorado with the teaser. We were +3, and the over was 41.5. We crushed that one. So, we didn't crush that one. It was over 46. That's right. We got it on the last touchdown with 1 second left. So thank God thank goodness for Nebraska to score that last one to get us over what we needed. So 2-1 last week. Here's your chance to maybe up. So we're plus $25 on the year if you're going $25 per bet. So, most of these are right about even money. That's where we try to keep them. So our first teaser lock of the week, we're going to go to the Buffalo game. Of course, they got beat by the Jets on Monday night, played horribly against the Jets. Spotted, they're up 13-3. And Josh Allen making some I don't want to say uncharacteristic, but some ill-advised plays, ill-advised throws, and then the fumble. This week, they've got Las Vegas coming to town. They're a 9-point favorite, 8.5 to 9, wherever you look. We're going to take teaser number 1. What we do is we -6 points. You can add, and of course, it lowers the odds, the payout. We're going to go with Buffalo, knocking it down to -2.5, under 53.5 total points, even money. This, of course, courtesy of DraftKings. So obviously, if you put $10 down, you'll win 10. It's even money. I like that one, plus 100. Buffalo -2.5 and under 53.5. Teaser number 1, or teaser number 2. Well, okay, we went out of order. Teaser number 1. We talked about it with Chris Solari real quick. We're going to go with Michigan State, plus 22.5 and over 50.5. I think there's going to be some points scored in this one. I'm not saying Michigan State's going to win this game, obviously. I think it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe like a 38-17 game, somewhere along that. Or, I'm not too sure about Washington's defense. Michigan State, I think, is going to put some points on the board, whether it be late or whatever. But Michigan State normal is getting 16 to 16.5. I'm going to bump it up to 22.5 with my teaser lock, over 50.5, plus 110, which means that if you bet $10, you get back $10.10. It's that simple. So I'm going to go with that as my teaser lock, number 1 of Michigan State, plus 22.5, over 50. And if you take that along with the Buffalo teaser that we just talked about, and you play that into a super teaser, you get plus 371, which means that it's almost 4-1 on your bet. So those are our first 2 teasers. And then our last teaser, the Dallas Cowboys taking on the New York Jets. They're going to Dallas. Dallas is a 9.5-point favorite at home. I'm going to take the 6 points here. The over-under on this one, I believe, is 39.5 total points. So I'm going to knock it down to Dallas -3.5. The under is going to be 45.5. You get plus 105. So there you go. These are 3 teasers. The worst that you can do is even money if you take all of these. I think they're good bets. 2-1 last week. That's going to be my teaser locks one more time. Again, Dallas -3.5. They're 9.5 right now on DraftKings. Teasers mean you get to add or subtract 6 points off the line. Give me Dallas -3.5, under 45.5 on that one for the total points, plus 105. Teaser lock number 2, Buffalo -2.5, under 53.5 is the total. So you're going to get even money. And teaser number 1, Michigan State, plus 22.5, over 50.5 on that one. You get plus 110. And the other one that I'm going to look at real quick, as a rule here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza, we don't do Thursday games, but I got to tell you, if I was going to do a Thursday game right now, I looked it up last night, the Thursday night game, and I'm going to, again, just kind of see if I can't get this on my phone real quick. Why is it not cooperating with me here? Obviously, let's bring this up real quick. If you're going to do a teaser lock, well, I'll tell you what, one that you might want to think about is the Vikings game tomorrow against Philadelphia. Only reason I say that is I think that a teaser on that one is you can go Philadelphia money line. The line right now is 6. So you go money line on that one. and on the over-under is 49.5. So you can go over 43.5 on this one, and you're going to get even money. That's another one that you might want to keep in mind. Philadelphia money line and going plus over 43.5 total points. That'll be even money plus 100. All right, well, that's about going to do it here tonight on the show. It's been a great show. A lot of interesting things to talk about. Again, follow us on Twitter or X at The Real Captain Lou. Drop us an email, sweetlou1965@yahoo.com. And, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Captain Lou Sports Network. And, of course, on Facebook, The Captain Lou Extravaganza, or my personal page, Lewis Gamlin. Again, want to thank Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press, Michigan State beat reporter, getting us up to date on what's going on with the Mel Tucker saga, the Washington game on Saturday. Again, it's a whirlwind in East Lansing. And for those of you, the alums and everything, feel sorry for you guys, the students, whatever. But I want to thank Chris for taking time out to kind of get us up to speed on that great conversation with him. You can hear that interview on our YouTube channel, which is the Captain Lou Extravaganza, the Captain Lou Sports Network, and just punch up our latest edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. And I want to thank you, the viewer, as well, for taking time out to watch us here on the network. And again, always a lot of fun. We'll be back next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time, for another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. All right, that's going to do it. Your reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us again here on the Captain Lou Sports Network and the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Until next week, so long, everybody.